Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spinner Rack, and we also have
Calvin Ellis ready to rock.
today we see a couple. We have a couple of CW DC shows are being canceled. We have Legends of Tomorrow. We have Batwoman being canceled, and then I think the what's going to be the last year Flash is coming up next year. Is that what it is?
Yes, and Iris West may not be coming
Hmm.
back for the next season.
So it's, I mean, this show and this period of shows, it seems that, they just, in my opinion, they might be, they've had their run of shows that was all interconnected in some way, or at least similar, same sort of production values, same sort of storytelling, not to call it, like as a negative, just an approach as we see with periods where shows are hot, or like procedurals, or doctor shows and that sort of thing, and something under one banner. They feel like it's coming towards the end. And Batwoman also had its troubles with switching the talent. That's always a hard thing to do. But one of the things, Legend Tomorrow got to what, like 5 seasons or something like that.
I thought more. I
Oh,
mean, I'd have to look. I thought Legends of Tomorrow might have hit as many as six. I'd have to. I mean, I have to check on. Let me check on that quickly. But that went a lot longer than I ever thought it would.
yeah. So that's a decent run for a TV show. And Batwoman, it had its issues. They switched their characters, which always kind of is a sign that the show has, cancer. It's really hard to stay along, but they made a go of it, and they seemed like they tried to believe in it. So, what is your feeling? I know you follow these CW shows a little more than I have.
Well, first let me say that Legends of Tomorrow went 7 seasons,
Wow, that is even better than what I was saying.
which which is a season longer than I thought it was. And then I think they went. They definitely truncated the seasons after a point of time. I think they might have done the last season was probably like 13, and that went much longer than I would have canceled it after the second season because I thought the premise that they set up for the first season, which I thought was entertaining and something I wanted to look into, they decided to turn them into the Keystone Cops, with the second season, and then it became all of this virtue signaling with a lot of the stuff later on. And just look, I'm just not into this. I don't tune into these shows for politics. If I want politics, I'll go watch, a political channel of the news. I just came in here for some good superhero fun and some adventure, and I'm not getting that. So I would just check out of it. But they had their viewership, and their viewership, was good for 7 seasons.
Yeah. That's the thing of, I know that invariably people can compare this to saying that Marvel is going, but the way the Disney sort of thing. Well, I guess it's what else? They also had the Stargirl, which was kind of um I think wasn't that canceled? They have a
No, I thought Stargirl, I believe, is coming back for season 3.
it is, so that's lucky.
As far as I I thought that the CW shows were pretty much coming to a close once Arrow started winding up, and then Arrow was your big head of steam. Arrow was your big head of steam, and then stuff would kind of slow down after that. But then I saw them kind of doubling down on it, and you got around the same time Black Lightning, Stargirl, Bat. Were still committed to Batwoman. So I was surprised. I was like, oh, okay. They didn't do the normal DC thing of like, okay, nobody's interested. Let's just wrap it up. They're like, no, no. Let's see if we can just keep this going. We can, bring in some other shows. We can do this with the last show being the Superman and Lois.
Yeah.
So now you want to see what they're going. Now you really want to see what they're going to do because the Flash would still be your flagship show. So your flagship show is not going to be there. Batwoman for me is, kind of like whatever because it really was this. It wasn't like a hit or miss show. It was
Mhm.
just a miss.
Mm.
It was like a miss, but somehow it kept on. Somehow it kept on. I mean, they got 3 seasons out of that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 seasons, and this was by everybody's account not a really good show, but it had a viewership that it lasted longer. It lasted longer than a whole bunch of other shows because it went 3 seasons. So you
Well,
had that.
keep going. I'm sorry, I jumped in.
No, I'm good. Go ahead.
Well, they say Stargirl's kind of in limbo. They're still trying to decide the fate on some of these other shows, like I guess the new Charmed, Dynasty. I guess that's
Really?
why recently
I thought
um
Stargirl got renewed. Didn't Stargirl get renewed for a third season? Like
it still says nothing yet. They say it's been hasn't been
it's supposed
renewed
to
or
it's supposed to
can't.
be third season supposed to come out this year. This year.
Looking at it, not seeing it yet. But yeah, possibility. There's something that came later than what I have. But one of the things, well, with these sort of shows, I don't know. It's with I mean that the compare being compared to what Disney's doing. Disney didn't really do what the CW did because the CW really capitalized on the success of Arrow, saying there's a market for this, and let's do another one, and let's do another one, and let's do another one, which is what success is. And it's like we look at stuff like, I guess, the reality shows and say there's too many housewives, but there's still a housewife still out there that they slip in from time to time. So saying they're going to be testing the waters with the housewives no matter what, or the love and hip hops and that sort of thing. But it was good to see that some of these superhero shows had legs, and they did some things before Marvel got to do them. We had a black canary, and I guess in the legends they had a white canary, right? Was that a white canary in there? His her
Yeah.
sister? So
Yep.
they've done that before the Black Widow came out, where the Black Widow's sister shows up, and we have that sort of dynamic of having the the sibling take on the same sort of character. So we had some decent stuff with these series, some fun things, something that people were really excited about when these things came out. So I mean, it would be sad if it would be the end for the CW, DC sort of heroes, and some of them might find their way to where they could decide to do what they want to do on HBO Max. But it's they had a solid showing for TV stuff. And when I would look at different things and I'd see, they had like Wild Dogs, so many characters that they kind of brought into this this CW universe that they were doing, and other characters that weren't even created. Like I always go to Blackbird and Thunder, which is the same character, but interesting to see what they can do with being on television, that type of deal. So I don't know. Is it the end? I'm not sure, but they still got Superman and what's it? Superman and Lois going on, and maybe they'll find some other books, stories to kind of do. So and as you're saying, Stargirl's still going on. They have that happening. So yeah, it's a tough thing because they've had such a long run, and it probably is a tough time for it. But there will be coming back to this. Once you've had something with this much amount of shows, it's something that people will see as revival. Something to revive. So we'll see
If
what
they
happens.
if they go if they go, I don't know. It really depends on the route they decide to go with it. And if they go that what you're alluding to, that route where it looks like it's winding up, it's winding down, then yeah. If I think if they're smarter about it and do like Disney, the way I would take Disney's approach. Disney doesn't cancel shows. Disney doesn't shelve shows. Okay. Disney's like, no, we don't want to sell Mickey Mouse, for a season or for 10 seasons. We want to sell Mickey Mouse forever. So they usually find a way to keep that show viable in some form or other, especially now that they have the streaming. So, the CW may not necessarily be the place for the shows. I would just migrate them, someplace else, much in the same way that Disney snatched up everything off of Netflix and brought them over to Disney Plus, if only for content. You One of the bigger issues that I've always had with DC is that DC likes to put their characters on ice after a certain point of time. They're like, okay, everybody's had enough of Batman. we're going to give Batman a rest for like 5, 10 years. I'm like, no, nobody's really has enough of Batman. People will come out to see Batman, because you're offering, how many different movies a year that people are like, I don't know about this, I don't know about that, but they know Batman. So you can always bring this guy back if you do it right and if you give people enough space between it. But this isn't something where you got to have like a 5, 10 year hiatus like they used to do. And after we do a few, 2 or 3 movies. So the same thing with the television series. I would say, look, this doesn't have to necessarily be the end and we do a revival, but it has to be, what direction are you going to take from here on with your shows? Because they did become these shows that were meant to be on the CW. Now, if they're winding up on the CW and you're not really going to be producing shows for the CW, all right, do you migrate them someplace else? And do you kind of tweak your storytelling for these shows so you can bring in more of an audience as opposed to, I don't want to say not pandering, but catering to the audience that was on the CW.
Yeah. It's I mean, I know they had Batwoman. When they did their HBO Max DC thing, they had Batgirl, so they didn't get rid of it from their push. It's just, it's one of those things that it's kind of time to say goodbye. But I'm pretty sure the people, the talent on there, they'll probably saying, "Are we showing up next next season? Oh, it's still going. Okay, great. Oh, we showing up next season. Oh, it's going to be a shorter season." And well, we'll see. And then, of course, some of the other shows, DC related, like Lucifer went to what's that thing? Which isn't necessarily really a CW show, but a kind of DC property, found its way to Netflix, which led to Sandman finally getting a regular series. You say, hey, we made kind of money on that. What if we kind of touched on this? So, yeah, that's one of the things of, maybe it's not something that should be going on ice, and maybe you can extract some of these characters like the Atom and see if you can do a show not as a group but as a solo character. See if you can get some of the stuff that Marvel did, which they kind of shied away from. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's it. It's not too negative because this happens to shows. I would only say with Marvel, they're really sporadic with their shows. They kind of do one after the other after the other. So, it's kind of not the same thing. Whereas they did classic TV stuff. Whereas, TV, you do Dynasty, then you do Dynasty, the Colbys at the same time. Two shows hitting the same thing. No, this is the other side of the oil business.
Well, the other thing I always wonder is like, okay, most of these shows were never very big in terms of ratings, but DC made, because of like tax breaks and so on and so forth, everybody still made money on these shows. So they were like, okay, great, we got content for the channel. Okay, so we're making money that way, but we can still sell the ad revenue. DC still making money because they're getting these tax breaks. So it's everybody was still making money, so it worked. And so now when they hear, okay, this is the last season, some of this works into people on the show like, look, it's time, I want to move on, those sorts of things. But I also wonder, look, are we seeing some of these cancellations because they do want to wind down with the CW and move stuff to HBO, move stuff to HBO Max, where of course, even if this rating, well, forget about any ratings, we're going to get 100% of the money as opposed to whatever we're getting right now. So I do wonder about that.
Yeah. All right. So I guess since they've given us, well, it depends on how long you've been in there. Maybe you don't want to send them off. Maybe you just moved on, or if you want to see the finals of these, check them out as they end. And so many, I guess the high point would be like the Crisis sort of stuff and the crossovers, giving you all these characters at once. And obviously the initial runs of these, of Arrow and the Flash, when you had the Flash meet, Arrow actually meet the Flash and kind of, help the Flash on, where they turned it into kind of a passing the baton to the Flash, which became kind of the flagship title for what was to come next. So you got a lot of things here and a lot of approaches that was just sort of fun. So they had some fun things. They had some TV stuff in them, and they had some of the Scooby Gang stuff, that the Buffy and that sort of stuff too. So
But at its high point, it was a lot of fun, and then I just thought it got mired down with just stuff. Supergirl, I thought Supergirl was. I mean, I defended that show for 2 seasons until they had her back to Superman, and I was like, I'm out. That's just you can't. I was like, you can't. I'm sorry, you can't come over here and disrespect Superman, and he's the reason why you're around. I'm just not going to be down for that. So I'm out. But Supergirl still went on for 4 seasons. So, and this is what I thought was some god awful storytelling, but still went on for that amount of time. So it wasn't like there wasn't an audience there. It probably would have gone on for 5, but then people were like, "Oh, let's look at the numbers. Okay, numbers aren't really there. Can't really justify it. All right, everybody's out. We all want to move. We're all ready to move on anyway." So that's how it would go. But I think if they could have maintained that, if they could have made that integrity to telling superhero stories that they had around when they did that Crisis crossover,
uh-huh.
then we would still be in a better place. Because to be quite honest, I think they alienated. Well, not alienate. I don't think that's the right word, but you do put longtime comic guys in a position where they're like, all right, this is just not for me. Okay, this is just not for me. To paraphrase a comic creator, the CW is for women and children. It's not for me. There's no reason for me to tune in. And one of the things I am seeing is that while they may want to maintain, or hey, look, we got a 30%, 40% female audience. That's great. But you lost 80% of the guys who were watching the show. So all the stuff that you had that was really rocking, that was bringing a lot of these dudes in and bringing in women as well, maybe you can get back to that wherever you go, as opposed to just, well, we know one spends more than the other. so, so we're gonna sell more Macari and more of these products to the women viewers than we're ever going to sell to the guys, and that's going to be what the ad space is all about at the end of the day. I'm like, well, maybe we can do both. Maybe we can still come and have these great types of comic book stories that have been good for so long, and still give everybody enough of what they need so you can have female viewers, make your ad space numbers, everybody gets back on their tax breaks, and everybody's happy. I don't think it has to be a mutually exclusive thing.
All right, so it's we're seeing 2 go out. We have a few that still kind of run in the running. So this might not be the end for the CW superhero universe, and they always got something going on over in the HBO Max universe where they got stuff happening. So we'll see what goes on. We'll see what happens.
Yes, we will.
Spinner Rack
Out.
out.